Anyways. First book I want to introduce to you guys. This one is called For Women Only by Shante Filden. And what I really like about this book, one, it's small, it's very easy to read. But two, I just love the information that I've gotten from this book. It talks a lot about the emotional state of men. It talks a lot about why the physical needs of a man are so important, also the way he thinks, what are his values, things that are important to him. And now I already can hear someone being like, you can't know everything from a book, you know, like that not everything you read is true, blah, blah, all this type of stuff. And again, that's why I said at the beginning, I know everyone's different. This isn't just like a female writer just writing about her thoughts. These are things that she's taken over a long amount of time, where she had study groups, where she had men, both who were of Christian faith, those who weren't, those who were single men, those who were married men, those who were young men, those who were old men. And over a long period of time, she has had them down in individual groups where she asked them these questions and asked them to be totally honest about how they feel, how they view certain things. And so that's why I like this. There's just a lot of I feel like stuff to back up what is in here, so it's not just like, you know, someone's opinion. And again, I've loved reading this because I've been able to apply what I've learned into my relationships. And I've met guys who will say, like, you know, don't believe the things you read, you know, that's not the same as actually, like, you know, talking to a real man, all that kind of stuff. Granted, I think it's good, you need to have actual experience, but there's some things as far as like knowledge and things that I can obtain to put into relationships that I think this has been very beneficial for. A lot of what I've read, when I apply it in my relationships with guys, as far as like the way I talk to them, or when I ask them a certain question, or even if I'm just being very observant to how they are in certain situations or with certain people, they pretty much line up very, very, very close, if not exactly, to what I'm reading. I don't know why I'm doing all this. Also, what's really cool about this book is that this is a series, so there's for women only, there's also for men only, and there's for young women only and for young men only. So when I was in middle school, I read for young women only, and then when I graduated college, I remembered about this book and I got for women only. And I recommend also, even, you know, it says for women only, go ahead and jump into reading for men only as well, and vice versa. Men, go ahead and check out for, you know, for women only. And if you're, you know, too embarrassed to buy for women only, you know, say it's for your girl or get your girl to buy it and then just swap books when you're done. Next book here is Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. This is a classic book. I'm sure you've seen it. I'm sure you've heard it about it or seen it in movies and all that sort of thing. It starts off with a story about Mars and how the men on that, it's only men on this Mars planet. Talks about how they are and how they're built and all that kind of stuff. And then on Venus are all the women and how they are and how they're expressive and loving and cuddling and talking. The men are like structured and like, you know, not really asking questions, just getting it done or trying to figure it out themselves and all that kind of stuff. What happens is that the men take a ship. I think they built a ship and then they went into space and then they found Venus. They're like, oh, let's go down. They see, you know, the women on Venus and they're like, oh my gosh. And all of a sudden, like, you know, the women from Venus are like super attracted to the men. They're like, wow, this is, you know, you're so strong and you know, all this kind of, sort of stuff. And then the men are like, oh my gosh, you're so soft. And, you know, they're liking these differences. They're getting along, you know, stuff is going good. All decide to go to Earth together. And when they go to Earth, they discover that there are problems. They realize, you know, the men forget that they are from Mars, so they are different. And the women from Venus forget that they are Venus and Venuses, so they are too different. They were confused as to why their men were acting weird, where before they understood that they were from a different planet, but now they're on the same planet, they don't get it. I know I'm probably making it sound way more confusing, but the story's interesting. It's a great illustration. It's a great jump off point to the book. The book really just goes into depth about like why men are different and why women are different. And when you understand those differences, you can avoid certain things that could hinder your relationships, and you can also realize certain things that could help your relationship. And so I really like this book. I'm going to go ahead and reread this probably at some point, because I really liked what I was learning from it. Certain things that men in my life have done that would used to bother me a lot, I realized really weren't big deal. So I really like this book because it gave me a lot of just understanding and insight that really, when I practice it, has appeared true in my life and has not had me to be super stressful. And again, everything you read, take it into prayer, and really, see if this is something that is really true in your own personal life and what you are experiencing with your significant other, or how be it. But I really like that it just goes into, why girls think a certain way about things, why men do, and because girls think a certain way, we expect, the men to think the same way, and men think a certain way, they expect the women to think a certain way, and why we really need to just take time to understand that we are different. I know we live in this world where today, no, everyone's equal, everyone's the same, but at the same time, we're not. We're very different, and because we're very different, that's why sometimes we have problems. And I think we especially have more problems when we try to put everyone in the same category and say, no, we're all the same, we all think the same. We don't. If we did, everyone would get along. Or, we wouldn't even try to worry about everyone getting along because everyone would be on the same wavelength. But we all have problems because we're different. And men and women especially are different. So I'm not huge, I'm not like, men and women are the same. No, we're not. We're all different. That's why we have problems. That's why there are issues. That's why people talk about love and relationship and dating, because we got issues. And I don't know why I'm getting so hyped. I'm just like, y'all, we're all different. I hope what I said made sense. I feel like I was just mumbling. But anyways, Oprah did it. This one is probably one of my favorite books I've read this year. Like, this has helped me so much, not just romantic relationships, but in platonic ones as well, with friends. Just give me even insight to family. This is really good. And I'm sure you've heard about this book, or you've heard someone mention it or reference to it, whether in person or whether maybe from a YouTuber, maybe even movies. You've probably heard about the 5 love languages. First one, or one of them, is words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. I've really loved reading this book. It has given me insight of my relationships, but also of myself, realizing as to why I am reciprocal, why I respond to certain ways of love over others. It's made me be reflective of myself, but it's also made me think about those that I'm around. And I love this because it gives me better insight as to how to love the people around me. And it honestly has made a huge difference in how I approach people, what I say or what I don't say, what I do and what I don't do, because I'm aware of the way that they receive and don't receive love. And I think, I'm going to actually be doing a full video on this, but what I think is one of the greatest, or one of the misconceptions about love is that love is all about us. We're looking for love because we're looking for someone to gratify our love and what we need, but really love is all about what you give to the other person and how you grow them, how you protect them, how you bring joy into their life, and how you help them to develop. And I think we think so much about what love is for us. Why aren't they loving us? What are they doing for us? And because we're just waiting here expecting, we're getting dry and getting irritated, but really it's all about what are you doing for the other person. And again, thinking about this in a healthy context, in a healthy relationship, if you take the principles and you start loving that person, they should be reciprocating and loving you. And the benefits is if you could read this together, then both of you can have an understanding of each one's love language. And if your love language is different from his, then you can in turn love him in the way he needs, and he can know that he needs to love you in a different way. Sometimes we love people in the same way that we want to receive love, but that's not always the case. If you have 2 different love languages, you need to be accommodating to their love language, and vice versa. If they love you, they need to be accommodating to your love language. But there's so much more I could get involved in with this, but I've seen this work in my own life. I'm really happy with just having picked this up. It's a small book. Honestly, it's a quick read. It's an easy read. To me, it's an enjoyable read. And again, I took my time with this. This is a book you could read in a day probably if you're one of those. But I'm a person to read something, to underline something, to meditate on it, to think about it, to soak it all in. So it takes me a couple of days because I'm trying to really absorb everything. But with that all being said, definitely pick up this book. The last book that I'm going to be talking about that I have read in the past year is this one. This one I just recently finished is Boundaries in Dating. And I'll be honest, I initially didn't want to read this book because I thought this was going to be a bunch of rules about things you should and should not do. And I was just kind of like, I don't want restrictions. I don't want anyone to tell me what not to do other than the things that I know not to do. This book was actually really deep in some ways. It's not like a bunch of rules like, like don't kiss, don't hold hands, make sure you stay in the light. Like, I don't know, like random stuff like that. It actually gives you a lot of good insight as to things to avoid in dating and things also to look for and things to ask for. I really liked the insight, not just about dating and you and that partner, but it talks a lot about you. Like, are you the problem in dating? This is probably why. Is he or she the problem in dating? This is probably why. And also about yourself. What are your habits? What are you doing? What are you doing wrong? What are you doing right? What are you looking for? Are you in the same place? All this type of stuff. And so it's really good. A lot of deep insight about friendship, relationships, dating, the things in your own personal life that are affecting the way that you date, all this types of stuff. I mean, these two are doctors, so they're probably they're almost like a little bit like psychiatrists in some ways. So you're gonna think about some things. Don't be scared. Be brave. Jump into it. Be strong and courageous, and you'll be fine. Benefit of me reading these is I've read all these books I read prior to being in any relationships, and so having all this, it makes going into relationships a lot more easily. Not to say that relationships aren't going to have issues and problems or that there aren't challenges. Reading these things have actually prepared me, I feel like in a lot of ways for that. Just with my mindset, like things may change, but my mindset towards certain things, I feel like are more calm, are more mature, has me sort of set up in a way where I feel like I will succeed, and that makes me, I don't know, it makes me happy. It gives me a sense of confidence, and I don't know, feel more relaxed about it, if that makes sense. But I don't know, this is really good though. I can't expand on this enough until, like, obviously when I go into different videos and I talk about certain things like I read from this book, but I really recommend this. But anyways, guys, that is it. That is all I wanted to share with you today. Just so you know, when I talk about these videos, where a lot of my information has come from. And of course, if it's stuff from real life experiences, I'm going to make that very clear. If it's something that's just my own opinion, I also will make that very clear. But overall, I hope that you enjoy this series, and I'm really excited to share with you the insight that I've got and the experiences that I've had and the results and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, if you have any book recommendations that align with this topic, then let me know. Let me know what you're reading. Even if it's not love relationship, let me know what you're reading. Whether it's audio, and this is when I show you my Audible link, which I do not have because I don't have Audible. But anyways, I hope you all have a great weekend, and I will see you next weekend. Alright guys, bye!